Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out 7 British things we don't have in America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of...
Damn right.
Oh, how embarrassing. Sorry, just a bit of force of habit there. America, land of the free, home of the endless aisles in the grocery store. But despite sometimes feeling like they've got it all, there are many things that actually manage to elude most Americans. After moving to the UK 11 years ago, it took me some time to pick up on the lingo here. Sometimes it'd be something we already have a word for in American English that I'd have to learn, like, oh, when they say rocket, they don't mean a spaceship, they mean a plane. Arugula. But there exists a certain class of item that is so ubiquitous within the UK, and yet very much not a thing in the States.
British people call arugula rocket? Yes, they are one and the same thing. In North America, it's known as arugula, a variation of a type of little. Countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, it's known as rocket. I've never heard this before. Wow, every day I'm learning something new. Crazy.
I mean a spaceship, they mean a plane. Arugula. But there exists a certain class of item that is so ubiquitous within the UK, and yet very much not a thing in the States. These are things that it took me a really long time to wrap my head around as an American, because, well, listen, everyone knows it here, they learn this stuff since childhood, and here I am, a grown adult, and it leaves me asking, what's a toilet brush? Well, this might blow your mind as a Brit. What do you mean you don't have toilet brushes in the States? I've seen what you eat. First off, rude. Secondly, true. But in America, we always have a plunger next to the toilet in case there's a clog. It's rare, but that's it.
Yeah.
Toilets in America are much deeper and have much more water than British toilets.
Whoa. Okay, first of all, before we get too far into this, I just want to say this guy's name is Evan Edinger, or Edinger. I don't know how to say it. Be sure to check out his channel and subscribe if you like it. Look at that water line. United States is way up here. That looks normal. The British one is way down there. So, like when you poop, does the poop stick out of the water? Sorry to get graphic. Okay, Evan, sorry to interrupt you. Please continue, Evan.
Toilets in America are much deeper and have much more water than British toilets do. Not only that, but from my experience, American toilets are just so much stronger than British ones. If you've ever been to America, I'm fairly certain you can attest to that. I found it odd that during a road trip in California I went on in 2022 with some British friends, my friend Luke comes out of the bathroom saying, "Why do you Americans fill your toilet bowls up with so much water? It's so full it wet my willy." Wow, I thought he was trying to brag about the size of his peen, but no, it turns out this is a thing. Now, I'd say the idea of needing to brush away poo with a toilet brush is inevitably going to gross out a lot of Americans that have never heard of this before because, to be honest, it is pretty gross, but...
That's what it's for? That's disgusting. I do have a toilet brush next to my toilet. There's a plunger. It's like a plunger toilet brush combination. I just use the toilet brush whenever I clean the toilet. Every once in a while after I flush the toilet, I'll give it a scrub so that the minerals don't build up and you get that brown ring around the top. I don't use it to push poop off the side of the toilet bowl. These are the kinds of details I need to know before I go there. Thank you, Evan. Thank you. Y'all know how I feel about poop.
To be honest, it is pretty gross, but the most embarrassing thing about all of this is living with other British people, being a full-grown adult and having them go, "Why has no one ever taught you how to use a toilet brush before?" And you have to be like, "I didn't even know that's what that thing was in the corner. I didn't know what that was for. I thought maybe you use
cleaning
it
the toilet
when you clean the bathroom, maybe every 2-3 weeks when you do a big clean of the house." Fair, that's what you'd use it for, not after every individual poo, but it's just that...
Really?
I'm not used to having issues where a toilet leaves stains because American toilets don't do that. So yeah, it might be a little embarrassing, but you know, you live, you learn.
Okay, hang on. I've been reacting to British culture videos for months now, and this is the first time I've heard of this. Or maybe I did hear about it and forgot about it. I am forgetful, that happens. So you use them after every poo? Okay, so he has a toilet brush thing here that it's like it encases the brush, which seems like it would be really useful if it's just been used to clean poo. Yeah, okay.
Now I've got a really nice little toilet brush that tucks itself away whenever you're finished using it. So it's hidden, it's small, I like it. I think it looks better than most toilet brushes. If you're interested in mine, I'll put it in the description. But that being said, I would easily trade out this terrible British toilet, every British toilet I've ever had, for an American one if I could. Or, oh my God, the luxury, the Japanese toilet. But
oh yeah,
one can
I've
dream,
heard those are
maybe
nice.
if I ever own 100% of a house rather than just 25% of one, so. But as you probably know, I live in a flat, and the developer is definitely not going to let me swap out the toilet, so. Toilet humor.
I didn't see that coming. That's such a dad joke. You must have children, Evan.
And the developer is definitely not going to let me swap out toilet. So toilet humor. Now, number 2, if you're someone with a uterus, it will cause you some pain, at least once a month. One thing I found odd living with so many different women in the UK is during that special time of the month, they always request one thing. a hot water bottle or a hot water bottle. Imagine my confusion the first time someone asked me for that. Like, oh, Evan, do you mind picking me up a hot water bottle when you're out? Come again? Where do I get one of those?
Yeah, what is that?
Greg's? Like, yeah, can I get a sausage roll?
Is it the red thing?
Yum yum.
It's the red thing.
Where do you guys keep your hot water bottles? I didn't know. Jokes aside, it turns out a hot water bottle is a bottle of water heated up and placed in a soft fabric. They're usually sold as a whole item. It's not like you just put a water bottle in fabric. I guess you could, but some people like to place them on their stomachs during cramps, and others like to heat theirs up before putting it under the covers with them to keep them warm. Now, I personally would prefer just buying a higher tog duvet for those winter months, but that's just me. I don't get menstrual cramps, so that is my privilege. Tog duvet for those under the covers with them to keep them warm. Now, I personally would prefer just buying a higher tog duvet for those winter months.
Higher tog duvet. What? What's he saying? Duvet tog ratings. What? What's a tog rating? Tog rating measures the thermal insulation of a duvet. Okay, the higher the tog rating, the warmer the duvet will be. Y'all, what is a duvet exactly? Oh, it's a comforter. I call it a comforter. It's like a big blanket. Okay, higher tog duvet. I don't know what tog my duvet is. What? Tog? A higher tog duvet. Okay.
Now, I personally would prefer just buying a higher tog duvet for those winter months, but that's just me. I don't get menstrual cramps, so that is my privilege. Now, you might be wondering, well, what the hell do Americans use to deal with cramps? You've seen the adverts, right? Drugs, lots of drugs.
Oh, yeah.
No, I asked my American audience on Instagram what they use, and I got responses like hot rice. Hot rice? I get that's roughly the same thing, kind of malleable, but I can't imagine just going into P.F. Chang's and being like, I've got some cramps, give me that hot rice. And then you get different cramps. But no, it's basically the same thing. Instead of hot water bottle, it's like a bag of rice that's heated up and it's malleable just like water. So I guess that makes sense. Now, I asked a few of my girlfriends across the pond, as well as those in the UK, and my British friends pretty much unanimously did say they use a hot water bottle. Some of them said they just take a hot bath, whereas my American friends did say they either take rice, a drug called My Doll, or they use an electric heating pad, which is very similar to a hot water bottle, but you plug it in, charges it. It's more of the future, though way less energy efficient.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, my family had a hot water bottle, but we didn't use it. I don't remember what it was for. Maybe my mom used it for her crampos. I don't know. Weird.
Plug it.
It's probably better than taking drugs.
It in, charges it. It's more of the future, though way less energy efficient. But then again, that depends on how you're heating your water in your hot water bottle, because as a related item that is really rare in the States that may make you nod your head and go, ah, that makes sense. Americans don't really have electric kettles, so it's not really as convenient to quickly boil some water to put in your hot water bottle. I made an entire video about America's lack of electric kettles already, and the reasons, so I'll link that above. Now, Britain is a really, really rainy isle, and pretty much every Brit I've met from as young as 8 to as old as 90 owns a pair of Wellies, the cute word for Wellington boots, which are quite rare in the US. Being in Britain, you're just expected to know what a welly is, and when you're invited to go to a festival, you're told everyone there will be in wellies, but, well,
what?
Owns a pair of Wellies.
Look at all these people wearing boots. Wellies. Wow, wellies. I feel like if in America someone saw you wearing wellies, they would think that you're using it because you have to step in poop or it's a work thing. But if you wore them just to a festival, people would probably look at you like you're crazy. It's like it would be overkill to a nerd level overkill. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, that's yeah. He's got the wellies. See? This was an embarrassing photo for him. Nobody else is wearing wellies, Ron. Why do you have the bright white wellies? See? It would be interpreted as, what the f are you doing, man? Wow.
Invited to go to a festival, you're told everyone there will be in wellies, but, well, I've never owned a pair. They're mostly used here for country walks, which is one of the biggest British pastimes. We do have rain boots in the States, but the style of long rubber tube that's so much in Britain isn't really as big a thing. They do exist, just not as big. Now, growing up in New Jersey, I think myself and many Americans owned a pair of duck boots from LL Bean. They're also where I get like my flannels from, like this one. They're kind of like the Americana outdoorsy brand version of John Lewis, if that makes sense. Duck boots are like peak rainwear men's fashion in America. Though, if you've never seen them before today, I'd love to hear what you think of them, because I feel like some people probably hate the way they look, but I don't know. I think they look good for rain boots.
They're functional.
They're rain boots, and they kind of give that nice outdoorsy vibe. But, I mean, they're a little pricier than wellies, and wellies are a much cuter name, I'll give you that. Brits always have a much cuter name.
Wellies versus rain boots. They do seem like they would be more expensive because it's like there's like stitching and let's go to Amazon and try to buy both and see how much they cost. Okay. Oh, there's some for $111. So they're like anywhere from about $35 to $100. Duck boots. It's about the same price range, $35 to $100. The wellies are probably better for deeper water, while the duck boots are better for fashion. Maybe. I don't know. That's subjective, right?
Wellies. And wellies are a much cuter name, I'll give you that. Brits always have a much cuter
It is.
And also from what I've heard, putting on a pair of British rain boots is well easy. So there's your bad pun. But speaking of waterproof shoes, this video sponsor, just kidding.
Evan.
No, it's not. Just false alarm. I had you.
Did.
All right, moving along. We're now halfway
Evan.
there. So if this isn't your first vid of mine, you
Tricking me.
have to click the subscribe button. Sorry, I don't make the rules. I'll be squashing any dissent. But speaking of squash, it does exist in the States. But you know, it's just a vegetable. We have some butternut squash, different types of squash, or a fruit, I guess. I mean, if you want to be pedantic, squash is technically a fruit. But squash in the UK normally refers to 3 nouns. One is the same vegetable we have in the States, and the other 2 are similar enough, but also comically different if you come from a different country like I do. At this point, I'd lived in the UK for over a year or so I was staying over at a friend's house, and it turns out they had squash. I had heard Brits really love squash, so I poured myself a glass, and good lord, did I wince. You know, Brits always love bullying Americans for how sugary their food and their drink is, but Jesus, that cup of squash was so much like liquid sugar. Like, it was both thin and thick at the same time, like maple syrup, like someone condensed 2 bottles of Sunny D into a single glass. Now, I'm assuming this is a common mistake for migrants to make the move to the UK, but squash refers to not only the drink you make with squash, but also squash. So it's a bottle of concentrated sugar and fruit syrup that you mix with like 5, 6, 7 parts water, but it's also the drink that you mix together. So how was I to know I was supposed to mix, all right? You don't think someone says they drink a drink and you're supposed to like read the instructions.
There's a squash drink? It's made of squash? Like butternut squash? This sounds so bizarre. Squash drink. What is it made of? Squash, sometimes known as cordial in British English, blah, blah, blah. Diluting juice in Scottish English. Water juice in northern Scotland is a non-alcoholic beverage with syrup used in beverage making. It's usually fruit-flavored, made from fruit juice, water, and sugar or sugar substitute. Modern squashes. Okay, it's not made of squash. It's a fruit juice. But squash is a fruit. Okay, centrifuge, citrus fruits, orange, lime, and lemon, or a blend of fruits and berries are commonly used as the base of squash. Okay, the way he described it made it seem like it was butternut squash and sugar. Thank you, Evan. Never heard of it. This is crazy. Orange squash, look at that. What do you know?
You don't think someone says they drink a drink and you're supposed to like read the instructions that say mix it with things. So yeah, I drank the double concentration Robinsons. It was not nice. This is the one I just picked up from the local store. It's called Ribena.
Oh, I think I've heard of that, actually.
And I will be honest, it's not bad. I personally just really enjoy water. I like water's my favorite drink. I know that's super lame, but also it's the best drink. So what's wrong with you if you don't like water? But this, a small amount of this really just, it gives this a nice kick. And from what I've seen, this isn't too unhealthy. So I mean, I can see the appeal of it, especially if you've got kids and they're like, "Mommy, I want to drink soda." And you're like, "Sorry, I consider that a form of abuse." I suppose this is actually a healthy compromise. But this isn't just any ordinary squash. This is the most popular flavor of it. And in fact, one of the most popular fruity flavors in all of Britain that is practically non-existent in the States. And that, of course, is blackcurrant. Unless you've moved countries like I have, you'll never really understand the confusion that comes from seeing and hearing something all around you that seems so incredibly commonplace that you begin to question whether or not it also existed where you're from and maybe you were just living under some sort of rock. But no, Brits just love blackcurrants and they use the flavor in everything. Pies, jams, drinks, medicines, Skittles. Even the purple Skittle is actually blackcurrant flavor, which is
I've heard of currants and I've always thought they were like grapes, but they're not? Hang on, Evan. Black currants versus grape. Red currants, black currants, and white currants are the real currants. Berries grown on shrubs similar to gooseberries are not grapes. Wait. In some areas, blackcurrants are misguidedly considered as a variant of grape. In reality, blackcurrant and grape possess different properties that can make them stand up against each other. Stand up against each other. Okay. Blackcurrants and grapes are both fruits, but they come from different plants and have some distinct differences. Blackcurrants come from the Ribes nigrum shrub, while grapes come from the Vitis vinifera vine. They're entirely different things.
medicine, Skittles, even the purple Skittle is actually blackcurrant flavor, which is such a shame because blackcurrant is just so mid. I'm sorry, but it's just not that good. Now, some of these on my list, you might say, hey, I know some Americans with Wellies, or hey, I actually knew a few Americans that had hot water bottles, but blackcurrant is almost completely unknown to Americans, with less than 0.1% of Americans having even had a blackcurrant in their lives. I might actually make an entire extra video about this topic because I find it so interesting, and I think you will too, but spoiler alert, basically blackcurrants were banned in the States for many, many years, and so we found something better. The grape, okay? We have grape flavored things, and grapes are delicious. Obviously grapes exist in the UK too, but not really the grape flavor. You cannot find many grape flavored things here, as it's been replaced with a worse fruit, the blackcurrant. If you never have had grape jelly before, you're missing out. Sadly, every UK supermarket I've ever been to, they got strawberry jam, they got raspberry jam, they don't have any grape jelly. I don't know why I said it like that, but I just miss grape jelly so much. It's just got a specific flavor that's so nice. Grape soda, grape jelly, the grape Skittle. You guys don't know what you're missing out on, all right? Think about it like this. If you like wine, that's made out of grapes, right? You'd probably like grape flavors too, and you'd switch to being on Team Grape-ab. God, that was a bad pun. I just plug them in where they don't fit.
Hang on now, sir. Why were currants banned? Black currant bushes were grown in America back in the 1629s, but in 1911 the professional cultivation of the plant was banned. It is a carrier of a fungus called white pine blister rust, hence black currant was declared illegal to protect pine forests. Wow. Okay, that makes sense. Protecting our economy by banning the black currants.
Now, speaking of switching and plugs, I'm really trying with these segues, guys. We all know that British electrical plugs are superior as a feat of engineering that prevents shocks.
Yes.
I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I was shocked as a child, physically shocked, by unplugging or plugging in my Nintendo and whatnot. I could. It's probably like at least 4 times, but I remember each of those times because I'm in formative years and I learned very early on to be very afraid of outlets. It was genuinely scary, and that's pretty much not a thing here due to how British plugs are designed.
I think I've been shocked maybe twice by an outlet that's made of wood.
It was genuinely scary, and that's pretty much not a thing here due to how British plugs are designed. They're like butterscotch in that they're always grounded. When I told this story to my friend Luke, he looked at me like I had 3 heads and went, how is that supposed to be a shared experience? I've never been shocked. So kids here, they get to have safe outlets. Lucky you. But what you might not know is those incredibly commonplace switches next to every single British outlet to allow you to cut off power specifically to that single appliance are practically non-existent in the US. Yeah, I know, another reason to fear American electronics. Now you might think having switches on outlets is a little bit extra, but there are 3 big perks to this. 1, it's nice to have another way to turn off an appliance. Extra ways to control your home is surely going to be a good idea, right? 2, a lot of applinesses these days, even when you have them powered off, still use a small amount of energy. For instance, all the smart lights I have in my house, they're always listening, you know, whether I tell them to turn off.
Yeah, and those little vampire lights, those appliances that have a little LED light just shining all the time, I usually unplug them. This would be great for that.
Whether I tell them to turn off and whatnot. So cutting the power at the outlet, if that's what you're into, would save you a little bit of energy at least, especially during cozy lives. But the biggest reason they're mandatory in the UK is for how much safer they make plugging things in. In America, when you plug a plug-in to a powered-on outlet, as the pins get closer to where you're connecting to, you may have some electricity jumping out or arcing to connect to the pins, and other times you hear that terrifying crackle sound as things connect. I've definitely had more than one outlet in the States that ended up burned like this. But if the US kept their same plug style and everything else, but added only switches to the outlets, it would pretty much solve that problem. If the outlet is powered off when you plug in, there's no current to leap to your pins. Then you simply turn on the power, boop, with the switch, and everything's nice and snug.
I like
no
that.
arcing. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Now, luckily for us in the UK, that is never really needed for that safety precaution because there's already 2 other safety precautions in place, such as having the ground pin mandatory in all British plugs and having it be a little longer so when you are plugging it in, it's always grounded. Also, insulation on the upper half of the plug. There's so many good perks to the British plug. This is one of those things where I'm just surprised that at least in the US, they don't just adopt one extra thing, like just for safety. Plus, in the event that something goes horribly wrong and maybe someone is getting shocked from their wire, well, all you have to do is flip the switch and they're fine. as opposed to having someone pull out the wire that's currently causing shocks, not a good idea, or I guess running to turn it off at the mains, which judging from the size of most American homes, by the time you come back, that person has been electrocuted. So it just makes sense to add switches to outlets. Now, as an added little fact, in England and Wales, roughly 7 people die per year due to electrocution in a domestic setting, whereas in the US, that number is dwarfed by children alone dying from shocks. Like I said, it is very much a standard.
What does it say now? We gotta read this. In the United States, there are approximately 1,000 deaths per year as a result of electrical injuries. Of these, approximately 400 are due to high-voltage electrical injuries, and lightning causes 50 to 300. There are also at least 30,000 shock incidents per year that are non-fatal. Each year, approximately 5% of all burn unit admissions in the United States occur as a result of electrical injuries. Approximately 20% of all electrical injuries occur in children. The incidence is highest in toddlers and adolescents. In adults, these injuries occur mostly in occupational settings and are the 4th leading cause of workplace-related traumatic death, whereas in children, electrical injuries occur most often at home. Hell, I reacted to a video about the British plug, and I'll try to remember to link it here somewhere. It's fascinating.
Like I said, it is very much a standard American experience to be shocked as a child. Eventually you realize, maybe don't stick a fork in there. Also, I do just want to point out that I'm not an electrician. I know being on YouTube, people expect you to know everything. I do not. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So there will probably be someone much smarter than me in the comments that's an electrician, what do they call him here, a Sparky, who's gonna give you a lot of fun facts. So check the comment section if I've said something silly. But where exactly is my comment section anyway?
It's underneath you.
Oh, it's under me. Thanks. Well, in America, that sort of crowd involvement where you break the fourth wall in a bit, it's not really something that is done ever except in like Dora the Explorer, like, hey, ¿dónde está Swiper? Cerca del lago. Gracias. Está allí. Yes, my Spanish is coming along okay. Thanks for asking, Dora. But besides Dora, it's really not a thing. However, over here, Brits absolutely love their pantomimes, or pantos, as they like to call them, which are really, really popular during the Christmas period. And if you thought Dora the Explorer was just some sort of fun show for children, you'd be surprised. Adults here absolutely get super involved in the pantos as well. I've seen a little panto at Kew Gardens once, and it involved a fairy, I think. In fact, I think most traditionally are based on old children's stories, but simply put, it's a performance where the cast are like, "What?" And the crowd is like, "He's right there," or "He's behind you, it's on your dress," something like that. If I said something like, "You all subscribe to my YouTube channel," you'd say,
"Oh, no, we don't."
Damn, I was hoping for, yes, we do. But I appreciate the, reality check, that's fine. Now, I can see the appeal of being more involved in a show, but they're okay. Maybe it's because I've never been to like a real one. If you have any good recommendations for ones in London, I'd be open to hearing. But if you try explaining the concept of a pantomime to an American, they'll probably just look at you like you've got 3 heads, as pantomime in American English is pretty much, a silent performance with mimes. At least that's what I would have thought it would be.
Yeah.
Whereas it's quite literally the opposite of a silent performance. And assumably the American will probably also bring up Dora the Explorer. She's just that super cool exploradora. You want to know what a real panto is like? Well, let me ask you a question. Does anyone know where I can build a professional looking website?
Squarespace!
Oh yeah, thanks. That's coincidental because today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. You're all in one.
I think I reacted to a video about Christmas traditions in Britain, and they mentioned a pantomime. It looks fun to me. Looks like a lot of fun. I like screaming at people on stage.
I hope you liked this video, as I kind of whipped it up real quick while I've been spending a huge amount of time processing this big video that I've been working on for next week. It's supposed to be this week, and there's a couple biggies after that.
Okay.
I've been really spending a lot more time researching and scripting the big vids and putting some fun ones like this in between. So hope you like it. But if you do like these videos on words, I do have another video on some British words that I now use all the time. I'll link that above. Otherwise, I'll see you there. Bye.
Bye. Interesting video. He mentioned stuff I haven't heard of. The toilet brush, the water bottle, the wellies, squash, black currants, plugs, pantomime. I also learned what duvet tog is. Never heard of that. Well, I could do without the low water level in the toilets. We don't need that. Water bottles we could do without. The wellies, we have rain boots. The wellies are probably better, but we don't need them. Concentrated fruit juice, we don't need it. The plugs though, we need this. We need it. People are dying. Why don't we have this? Hey, United States Congress, do something. Get it together. Get off your asses and give us these safer plugs. Children are dying. Adults too, but children. The children. What about the children? All of these things I could give or take. We don't need them, but the plugs, we need the safer plugs, y'all. We need the plugs. Well, be sure to go to Evan Edinger's page and subscribe for more videos like that. He's smart, he's quick, he's fast, he's funny. I endorse him. Anyway, thank y'all for watching this video with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.